Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back in War Thunder and we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting topic, but before we do so I just want to point to some stuff. So first of all, the footage that you see in the background of this video, this is actually taken from a Twitch stream that I did earlier today. The reason why I'm using it in this video as a background or as a template is just to see if the quality is good enough for you guys while actually watching these videos, because obviously a lot of you have said that you would like to see more gameplay, and this is where I'm trying to incorporate it. So if the quality is good enough, let me know. If it needs to be upped, also let me know. I can go back to just recording the content, which gives us, a high fidelity. On top of this as well, if you want to follow the Twitch channel, we'll be streaming, pretty regularly when it comes to War Thunder and also other games. It's just twitch.tv/the European Canadian. So you can go and have a look at that on Twitch and, follow and enjoy the streams. It's probably the easiest way to ask a question if you don't like hanging out on the Discord, so therefore you can go there and have some fun and enjoy the community. So, what are we talking about today? Well, a few weeks ago, on the 4th of January, the video that I created on that day was one titled "The Game Is Not Dying, and It Is Easier Than Ever to Grind to Top Tier." And it was kind of interesting, because when you look at the like to dislike ratio, as many people have pointed out, it's kind of interesting to see this split in the community. Now, it's pretty simple what that video was about. The title kind of says it all. There was 2 points which were brought up on it. The idea that the game is dying and how this is false, and then the other one is that it's easier than ever to grind to top tier. Now, what seems to have happened, and I'm going to put some comments on the stream, or the comments on the video here so you can see through it, is a lot of people got confused. And this is fine, it happens a bit. And the fact is, a lot of people took me saying it is easier than ever to grind to top tier as it is easy to grind to top tier. Easier and easy are not the same word. They will never be the same word, and I have no idea why people took them as the same word. The video was not designed to actually say that the grind to top tier is easy. Because otherwise, you know what the title would have been? The game is not dying and it is easy, then it is easy to grind to top tier. But that didn't happen, so it's very odd to see a large part of the people who watched that video to actually look at it and go, okay, well, I'm going to completely change what the video is actually about, and also, put forward my thoughts on the idea of it being easy. But the thing is, that was never what I was addressing, and, it wasn't something that was brought up. Because the fact is, when it comes to talking about, is it an easy grind to top tier, the whole thing is very subjective. It's very opinionated, and it's not something you can really back up when it comes to facts or when it comes to anything else. There's a lot of nebulous things which are thrown in when people talk about it, the ideas that are thrown around, and I thought, why not try and have a video which actually analyzes a different topic that just looks at a lot of basic facts so people can use it in arguments to talk about, is, it easier than ever to grind, and is the game dying or not, because these are things which are brought up a lot. So in this video now, it's time to talk about the easiness of the grind, or is it easy? And in my opinion, no, it's not easy. It is not an easy grind to get to top tier. It also probably never will be what is seen in my eyes as an easy grind to get to top tier. But the thing is, at the same time, is there things I would change to make it easier for people even compared to now? And the answer is yes. There are some certain changes I would throw in. I would make certain modifications reduced in price, or I would give the onus to the player to be able to actually pick what modifications they would want reduced. You would get like maybe 3 modifications of vehicle, and you could just pick which ones you would like reduced, so therefore they're 50% lower than normal, and therefore you get the choice on what would make your grind through that vehicle easier. There's also some other things, such as certain RP reductions on specific things it would be nice to be lowered, but overall, yes, I think it should be made a little bit easier, even though, it is right now the easiest it has ever been. Do you see how easy and easiest are not the same now? Okay, I'm very happy we got past that. So the next thing to talk about is the fundamental facts. And the fundamental facts is if we make the grind easier than it already is, then there is going to be some problems. The main problem is when we look at the way that Gaijin monetizes the game, the fact is their main business model is around this idea of the grind. It's what the basis of the business model is based on. It's also what a lot of the infrastructure of the game is based on, the actual researching of vehicles, buying premiums, also buying premium time, all of these little things. So if we change the grind in a substantial way, then what happens there is it leaves a big black hole in the end of Gaijin's finances. And obviously we don't want that, because then the game eventually dies, because it cannot be supported by the creator unless there is massive spike in players, which, you know, cannot just be randomly hoped upon, and also isn't a good metric to live off, because there is nothing backing up the statement that, you know, we would get a massive influx of players if everything was made massively easier. So what I've done is I've made a simple graph, and what this simple graph does is it shows time compared to rank. So the idea is that we're going to take some standards. So a lot of people want the RP and SL of each rank reduced. So pretty much to enable to research vehicles, they want massive reductions in how much it takes to do it. So what I've done is I've created a graph which shows just very generically how much it would affect the whole thing if we did that. So the first thing we have to understand is if we're reducing if we're reducing research by half, we're also reducing SL by half, so therefore they're both, you know, stayed 1-to-1. So you can see this video not just as, you know, if they reduced the amount of time it takes to research, they also reduce the amount of SL it can cost as well. So you can see that as the two factors. Now, if we have a look at this graph, the first one, now the numbers are arbitrary, it's just to show a general trend, it doesn't actually match to anything, it's just to show you a general idea. So the first one is time. So this is just time that it would take now, if you're not running premium, and if you're just, you know, researching through the ranks, how long it would take you to top rank. Now, as I said, these are arbitrary numbers, it's just to show you how, you know, it's just to show you a general idea. Now this is time with premium. So as you can see, everything has been halved. So it takes you half the time to get to top tier compared to before. Now you have premium. Now if we just half the time without premium, that is actually exactly the same as the time with premium, because what premium does is it pretty much doubles the amount of RP that you make while you are coming out of battles. Now let's have a look at it if you did time halved with, or, you know, a research halved with premium as well. So now what we've done is we've actually now got a quarter of pretty much what the overall research, or the overall time, and also the overall research of what it takes. So we have a system now that it takes a quarter of the time compared to before of how long it gets to top tier. Now, the problem with that is if you look at the lines, there is this huge gap of time where the player would not have to run premium, or would not have to run premium vehicles, and can just play whatever they want. Therefore, there is this huge amount of time where Gaijin doesn't have that premium time from the player, because it's not required to be able to be used. So that is burning a massive hole in Gaijin's pocket. And I know a lot of people don't care about this. I know a lot of people, you know, don't think about this side, or don't really care, but it's something to think about, because at the end of the day, both sides have to work together. It cannot just be a completely 100% consumer focused thing, otherwise everything would be free, right? So looking at this graph, we can definitely say that there is a huge gap in the economic side if we reduce it this much. So it's up to us, and it's obviously, if Gaijin want to make these moves, it's up to Gaijin to work out other ways of being able to monetize monetize the game in ways which are away from just the general research of the game. And what I've tried to do, and I just want to thank members of the Tech Hub community, because we did brainstorm some of these ideas. Thank you for sitting there and going through it. People like CK, Dog, of course, Matrix with some ideas, and then also Freeman and many others who contributed their ideas. I just want to thank you because it's always good to, get a brainstorm going. So the ideas in general are ways to monetize the game, which I think people would enjoy or would like to see. And I know there is a decent amount of the community out there who doesn't like the idea of monetization. We see a big trend on places like YouTube, on places like Twitch, on places like other areas on the internet where monetization is seen as something that is frowned upon. And the problem is, at the end of the day, people have to make money, people have to live, people have to eat, people have to house themselves. So it is a conversation that has to be had, and if you are taking revenue from one area, we have to increase it in another to make it sustainable if you want to stay at the current rate for the company. So let's get into some of them and talk about them as we go. The first one is general customization options. So something that we see a lot in games, especially games such as Path of Exile, is there's a lot of customization, meaning that you can pretty much customize everything to what you need. A lot of games with large popularity use this as kind of a crux for their monetization, and it seems to work pretty well as long as they are able to, keep it up. So the first one would be hangar customization, being able to buy stuff for your hangar. To pretty much give you a nicer, relaxed environment, being able to add stuff that you want to see in the hangar, so when you open the game, you're able to see exactly what you want. Now, yes, they would have to probably limit the idea of user-created hangars here, but at the same time, once again, it's another monetization option. The other one would be customizable crews. Something that we've seen in a lot of other games is the fact that it's nice to have these customizable crews. It's nice to have plenty of different faces, being able to give them names, being able to give them personalities, maybe not, skills and stuff like that, but just a different customization compared to the blandness that we see from a lot of the crews in War Thunder. So this means that you could maybe create yourself in the game, and it's not as if, Gaijin have not been able to do this before. Cuisine Royale has actually got quite a heavy amount of customization in it, and if we could just transport some of those ideas into War Thunder onto the crew models or the crew members, then you open up doors which are very similar to decorations for tanks and stuff, where you can buy them for GE and add them to your crew. Now, also remember that point, because we're also going to come to it later on. Another thing is squadron stuff, so squadron labels, flags, pendants, things like that you can either put around the hangar, or you could be able to or you could be able to put them on your vehicles, in the form of decorations or decals, or, as I said, just have flags around the hangar. The other thing about crew as well is being able to have them move around the hangar itself. One of the nice things that Crossout does is when you hit the test drive button, you actually go from the hangar instantaneously into a test drive. It would be cool if War Thunder could do something similar, but instead with customization, meaning when you go to a tank, you can see the crew working on it, or you can see the crew stood out next to it, so you could see what they are, you could click on each of them, and you could customize them. I think that would be a really nice idea. There is another one, which is a content program for user missions. So content programs are pretty proficient right now. Obviously, we've got the creator program. There is also a creator program which has just been there's just been added to the game, a way to add independent audio files and stuff like that, or at least easier to do it when it comes to sound mods. You could always do it, but now there's an official way of properly doing it. Why not have a content program for user missions? So if people make some really cool user missions, they get part of the program, and then what they do is they get a decent sum of money, and then every time they're sold off the store or the market or whatever it is, you could pay GE or money for them, and what you get is you get the user missions. So this would be single player or maybe co-op missions when it comes to squadrons or platoons, and if people make the content, then Gaijin doesn't have to make the content, and all they have to do is give an upfront price, just like they do the user models, and then, you know, people can buy them for G or money, and what it does is it creates this whole interesting single-player part of the game, and also gives people more incentives to create these single-player campaign experiences, which I know a lot of people are looking for. Also, it would be kind of like a DLC model, so it would be add-ons to the game, very much similar to the Pacific packs that we already have, which are attached to stuff like the A6 M5 Co. The next one is just simple, more skins. Everybody loves more skins. More skins are always interesting. And the fact is, when it comes to skins, we have seen a massive rampant addition of them every update, especially through the Gaijin market, but just having more in the game itself, you know, which are worth maybe 200G, maybe 500G, depending on the quality of them, it would be nice to see them as well. The next one is expanding the Build-A-Bear event. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this come into monetization? So, I've talked about expanding the Build-A-Bear event into a monthly or bi-monthly thing, where you buy a blueprint off the workshop, and then what you do is you grind out the parts and grind out the special parts in games, and then you put together the blueprint through the workshop, and then you have the vehicle. What if you were able to coupon that vehicle? What if you were able to actually coupon the special parts? What this would basically mean is you could sell them on the Gaijin market, Gaijin take a cut of that, and therefore people have more than one avenue to be able to get these Build-A-Bear vehicles. They could either try and get them on a monthly basis, or they could buy it off the Gaijin market. You could also make it so, you know, the blueprints themselves you could buy for GE, but I'd rather that wasn't it. I would rather have it so you could get the blueprints for a certain amount of war bonds, and then you could work on them over time, and then coupon all of the stuff off. I think the coupon system generally is very good when it comes to War Thunder. I also like the fact that individuals get to set the prices instead of Gaijin. I generally think that's a good idea. The next idea as well is bringing back older vehicles in a schematic system. So this would be incredibly similar to the Build-A-Bear event, but instead just for older vehicles. So you would buy the schematic for GE, and then you would grind the vehicle out. So there is a ton of vehicles in the game which were taken out, or just were, you know, seen as surplus to requirements. Some of the SP2Ms, the Italian vehicles, and the German tech tree. Then, of course, you have vehicles such as some of the Year 2s which were taken out. Just make these available in schematics, and let's say it's 500G for a schematic, you buy it, then you get the blueprint, the workshop opens, it shows you how many parts you need to build all of these things, and the special parts, you grind them out in missions just like you do normal research, and also just like you do in, you know, just like you do for squadron vehicles, and eventually you're able to get these vehicles, and then if you wanted to, you could coupon them off again. So once again, there is a little bit on the end where Gaijin can also create a bit on the bottom line. Then the next one is just premium titles and profile pictures. The reason for this is because since you have lowered the need for premium across the board, we need to find other ideas to make premium actually more worth it. If you make the grind so easy that premium is not required, there has to be additional stuff on top of premium to make it useful, instead of the major factors, which are it boosts the grind and it also boosts the SL gain. So the idea here is to give premium access to titles and profile pictures, which would only be there if you have premium. Very much similar to the decal idea with the decal slots, but instead just expanded to titles and profiles. There would also be, you could have titles in the game which are just for people who have specific packs. They already do this, but I think they could expand it out a little bit when it comes to maybe, you know, how much money you've spent on the game. It may worry people a bit how much they've, you know, spent on the game, but it is how it is. The next one is a battle pass, or as we talked about it in the other video, a thunder pass. So everybody gets access to a standard thunder pass, and what this means is over a season's period, or let's say 3 months, you get access to challenges, which mean, oh, by the way, for the schematic system or for the Build-A-Bear system, you could also do them in challenge form. So let's say in order to get a track, you have to get 50 track kill or 50 track assists or something like that. You could easily add that into the game if you wanted to. But back to the Thunder Pass. So with the Thunder Pass, what you could do is you could make it so, for every stage you have a different challenge that you have to complete, and after every stage you either get a bit of SL, you get a bit of GE, maybe you get a skin, maybe you get a vehicle at the end of it. Something to keep people coming back to the game every day that isn't just the WARBOND shop. Even though the WARBOND shop is a fantastic idea, we're still looking for extra monetization options. So when it comes to the Thunder Pass, how do they make money off of it? Well, just like everybody else does when it comes to their Battle Pass ideas, such as Fortnite or Cuisine Royale. Once again, pretty much what you do is you make a normal battle pass for everybody, and then you make a premium one, which means it's just easier to grind through. So therefore, you can put money in and it takes less time to get stuff, just kind of like how premium works. So I think the Thunder Pass idea, we talked about it in one of the last videos. I think it's a great idea and it would be really nice to see. The other thing is just targeting different audiences. So one of the things that we see a lot is, kind of scantily clad women when it comes to the decals. We also see some decorations which are heavily war themed. What about a sexy fireman decal? Get the boys a little bit hot, or maybe get the women steaming. Why not get, some different decals which appeal to different audiences? I think that would at least be interesting, or other stuff to appeal to different audiences, such as decorations or even certain skins. I mean, why not? What's the harm? You're going to get a bit of hate from people, so what? That's going to happen anyway. The next one is just more decals, which would be available for GE, or which would be available to grind out. So overall, that would mean that people would just spend more on the decals, because there would just be more of them. Obviously, in the WARBOND shop, you have a decal every month, but adding more of them, is just a kind of nice idea. The next one is actually linked to the customizable crew. So what we see in a lot of games, Overwatch probably made this more prevalent than most, was the play of the game idea. Now in War Thunder, the play of the game idea doesn't really work too well because of the fact that it would be kind of boring to watch, and also setting up a whole system to be able to do that. There's not really, much point. Instead, why don't we have an end screen which would show an avatar which shows off a fully customizable actual model? So it would be one of the models from your tank, probably the commander, or the pilot in the form of the plane, or maybe your naval commander or your naval captain when it comes to the ship that you used. And it would show the face, it would show the shoulders, it would show the hat, and it would show all the customization. So the beard, the wonky eyes, the weird eyebrows, whatever you wanted to do with it, and also some of the extra stuff that you have on top of it. And what you would have at the end of the game is an MVP of 3 winners, and they would get, different things. So, one would be, I don't know, most assists or most damage done, or one would be highest score, or just stuff which is different to the norm, best team player, stuff like that, most captures, most bases bombed, stuff like that. So this would give people an incentive to, first of all, stay around till the end of the match, and also to see that pretty cool screen where you could see these different avatars, and you could, since the avatars are fully customizable and the majority of the customizations would be paid for, this would give people the incentive to actually show off and buy stuff like decorations and buy stuff to put on their avatars. So therefore they would show them off at the end of battles to say, hey, look at me, how cool do I look? We see this in other games quite a lot which have these MVP systems. Even Verdun has a system like this, so I definitely think this could easily be added into War Thunder. And it also doesn't have to be historical. Think like even Cuisine Royale. Maybe somebody wants to have a colander on their head and is an MVP, just to show off even somebody with a colander head can get the most damage, It's definitely something that I think would be really nice to see in an avatar sense. The other thing is squadron decals in-game. So every squadron in-game, there would obviously have to be a vetting process for this, so people don't, abuse the system with, sexual gratification or anything like that. But you would be able to put your decal as, a thing in game. Let's just say the tech logo, or the tech hub sign. Let's just say you could put that in game, and it would only be available for your squadron members. And if you wanted access to it as a squadron member, you would have to pay, I don't know, 250 GE or 500 GE, or maybe the squadron overall has to pay a certain amount of GE to be able to get that in the game. But the only people who could use that decal would be the squadron themselves. So it would be a mark for the squadron, it would give people another reason to join squadrons, and also it would give an extra monetization option for Gaijin to do. They do this thing in Warframe, where if you join a clan, you actually get their insignia on your suit, let's call it. So I think this could easily be added to War Thunder to give a bit of individuality, and also a little bit of extra monetization. Another thing which is linked to the idea of squadrons is guild areas. So something we see in other games, World of Warcraft, also Warframe with its dojo, is a guild area. This means it's a place where people can hang out who are part of similar parties or squadrons, or other people can visit said areas. And what you could do in War Thunder is you could create a barracks which would show different achievements and also player information on each person or on each squadron member. You could also have it in first person, so people walk around it, and the monetization part would be squadrons could put forward GE, and with the GE they would be able to add stuff to the barracks, but there would also be a non-monetization option. So activity in the squadron, you know, squadron activity which is already tracked, this could be converted to squadron resources which could be used to add stuff to the barracks. So you could either, you know, grind it out like you do squadron vehicles, or what you could do is just GE and be able to get all of these things for the barracks and be able to show off, you know, stuff to other players. So therefore it would just give a moment in history for people to see the squadron, to be able to look at the players. Maybe you could do past players, maybe you could do, you know, who has the most kills in the squadron, who has the most assists, who has the most playtime, all of this stuff, and you could have it in this barracks which you walk around and see. You could also have the avatars just in there as well, so being able to see them as well. How cool would that be, you know, seeing everybody's avatars and stuff. The other one is a personal museum, so this is more of an individual basis idea instead of a whole squadron idea. So this would be having a personal museum that you can walk around in and view your achievements. These would be most kills, most played vehicles, and you could customize it the way you want. And in order to show off more stuff, you could actually buy more slots for GE. So if you want to show more stuff off to other players, if you want to decorate it more, you could once again throw GE at the game to make it look pretty and make it look nice. The other thing also is, what about an idea where when other players view it and they come in to come and see it, what about an idea where you could write a little like notes, or you could write a little book for them to read about your experiences in War Thunder, or, you know, something which kind of marks you as an individual when it comes to War Thunder and your part of the game, giving you a nice little area, you know, when it comes to what's going on. A person I do also want to shout out at this point, because I just remembered somebody who hit me up in a match earlier today, is Cow Sack Sack a Punch. So, you know, hope you're doing well. Hope you have a lovely day. The next one is inbuilt advertisement. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to be annoyed by this, and it's definitely one I wouldn't choose. A lot of these I'm not really giving my personal opinion on. These are just ideas that were thrown out there, but the majority I do agree with. But this one I do fully disagree with. What about inbuilt advertisements? So what about if in the hangar you had inbuilt adverts for other games, like Raid Shadow Legends? Or what if you saw other stuff such as billboards on certain maps like Alaska, which would actually have inbuilt advertisements as well, meaning that you could see advertisements from other products in War Thunder itself. Obviously this would give Gaijin a monetization angle, and to be honest, when it comes to the game, it wouldn't affect it too much, apart from maybe if it was in your hangar. Now, I believe Burnout Paradise did something similar to this, where they had billboards all around They had billboards all around the open area that you could drive around. Burnout Paradise I really enjoyed as a game, but what you could do is you could smash through these billboards, but there was also other billboards which you couldn't smash through, which would have actual advertising on them. So advertising from companies that existed, therefore they must have paid a little bit of moolah to get them into the game. I generally think this is a pretty cool, idea, and it would be interesting to see if War Thunder ever branched into that. Video ads in loading screens was also an idea thrown out there. So while you're loading into a game, you see a short clip of a trailer, or you see a short clip from another game. That could easily, work out. And then the next one is collaborations through advertising. So actually, if you've seen World of Tanks, one of the things that World of Tanks did is they created the Fury tank, right? And the Fury tank was a vehicle which was it was a deal done with the movie, so they added the actual Fury, the M4A3 Easy 8 Fury into the game, and you could buy it, and I think you can even still buy it today. And it was a collaboration they did with the movie, kind of like how, Gaijin has done collaborations with movies in Russia, but why don't we expand that? Why don't we get other ideas into it? I know there's a lot of weebs out there who would like to see them expand into anime stuff, but there's plenty of other things out there. You could do museum collaborations, you could do specific skins for museums, specific codes for museums, which we see, even World of Warships doing with certain American museums. I definitely feel like War Thunder could benefit from doing this, and, at least reaching out and seeing what's going on with them, I think would be a great idea. The next one is, as we said before, Premium would have to be revamped, and it would need to be given other things to it to make it worth it to buy. So what about the idea of splitting research between multiple vehicles? Let's say you are researching one vehicle in a tech tree. What about if you could research two vehicles at once, but you would have half the research for each? So let's say instead of putting all your research into one vehicle, what about being able to research two vehicles of a similar BR, so therefore, you can get them researched quickly at the same time. So yes, it would take doubly as long to research the two vehicles, but at the same time, it would mean that once you research those two vehicles, you would actually get a decent lineup out of it. I generally like that idea of splitting research. As long as it's not done across nations, then it kind of breaks the whole thing. And then the last idea is a premium idea for the WARBOND shop. So what you would do is you would pay so much GE per month, and you would get access to grind better vehicles in the WARBOND shop. Now I understand the general idea of the WARBOND shop is that it is supposed to be a place where it's pretty much just for the general individual who doesn't have any money, who wants to just get free stuff. But what about the individuals who want to actually pay for stuff? And the only thing it would be doing is paying to get access to grind slightly better vehicles. So let's say rank 4, rank 5 ones. So you pay the GE, and if you don't grind it, then you pretty much lost the GE. But if you do grind it, then it's overall worth your time with this premium WARBOND idea. Maybe you get access to other stuff, such as decals or titles, which would also be on offer in this premium style of WARBOND shop. So I think I like that idea too. I don't have an issue with that. The main ones I have issues with is the advertising stuff, but everything else just sounds absolutely wonderful. So yeah, the fact is, if you are an individual who believes that, the grind has to be made even easier and has to be reduced a lot to be fun or to be better for people, to get into the game, other monetization stuff has to be found. And hopefully this video will give you a general idea of at least how I'm thinking about it when it comes to other areas where they can monetize. If you are an individual who just believes, Gaijin doesn't have to monetize and they should just reduce everything anyway, then it's just not going to work. It's as simple as that. People call me a shill for these ideas. People, go, well, why are you trying to take money from us? It's just not the case. I'm just trying to look at both sides of the coin and give you a general idea of how this all is actually working. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And if you have any ideas, stick them in the comments. It's always nice to read them. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Moxie, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.